All right, live guitar practice number 24. If we are up and running, we are. And we are refining bad measures on Blackbird. And you might argue, hey, Luke, all those measures were bad the other night. I'll argue some of them were, some of them weren't. And I'm going to change up how I'm doing the practice because I kind of want to move very small intervals. And I feel like Sibelius is a little bit cumbersome for that. That's the program that we're using for the sheet music. That's what John writes all his tabs in. Now, if you guys want to support us making more videos or more sheet music, become a member at musicbythemeasurespro.com. Your support helps. And yeah, just going to settle in and have a nice practice. If you guys need more help with some of the song, I did a longer review of pretty much everything on the earlier versions of this because I think today is day 5. So just really picking the ugly measures out, and this G/B is one of them. So, and I want to go as slow as humanly possible, and I'll probably only play the G/B. Usually it's not that bad, but there's always wisdom in taking, like, hey, you run through the song, you run through the passage, and go like, okay, these are the 2 that I'm really bad at, and then just hit those 2. And then I'm going to try to hit everything else and see if I can get up to full speed again. Last night I got to 95, but there was like one run that was pretty close to being done, but like sloppy at the end, which, you know, hopefully this will clean up the rest. I don't know why this isn't working. Oh, because I'm playing the chord wrong. A lot of the slow stuff, I feel like I'm in a lesson where I'm like, let's get started. And then the other thing I want to say, it's like the mechanics, right? You have to, like, your finger needs to move just right. Because when you speed stuff up and you aren't moving your finger the right way, or you aren't picking something correctly, that's when you start falling apart. And that's what I noticed in that 95 is like, yeah, I can play this measure at like 45, but I don't have confidence in what I'm supposed to be doing. All right, let's do this with metronome. So here's 40 BPM. Which is slow. 1 and 2 E and 1 and 2 E and. Another thing that I noticed is a lot of it when I get to speed is more a flick of my first finger, and when we're going through these slow, I don't really get that flick. So it's something I want to think about now a little bit. I think you can say flick or just like a little bit of looseness that isn't in when I'm trying to control it so much. Okay, with that A7. 3 and 4 E and 3 and 4 E and. Oops, I forgot to shut one thing off. Now, this may not make the best TV, and that's okay. It's good practice. And it's the way that I would prefer to practice. So I was teaching a student the other day, and every once in a while I find a student that likes to learn the same way that I like to learn, because we all like to learn differently, and we all are good at learning different ways, where he and I can like literally just zone out. Those are fun students for me because I feel like I'm just sitting there jamming, like giving them a little bit of insight, kind of what we're doing exactly here as well. And it just, that's the best way for me to learn. And you can hear already the dividends of just kind of zoning out. And then guess guess what? Then you would speed it up a little bit. So let's do that. We'll do this section. We'll get this up. Let's go by fours. So I'll do this whole measure, G/B to A7. Spend a second just going. Not only want to hear the sound of that E and, or not E, D and G string. I'm gonna get that sense of feel. Because every once in a while, as I stare at the music, right, because I don't completely have this memorized, even though I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. You know, I don't have a trust in how it's supposed to sound. These are the small moments you're supposed to just practice over. I guess I could say movements. I don't think I'm terrible at the D7 sus to the G, but let's just do it a little bit. That's where I'm bad. Let's move this just a little bit. So, metronome, even though I feel like I'm decent at it. I know as we get up to tempo, I'm a little shaky. And 2 E and so we go 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and 3 and 4 E. 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4. Now the big difference too is when you're playing this slow, you don't play with the strain you do when you're playing fast. And a big goal, and it's very singing-like too, we want to bring that lack of strain into our fast playing, but there's only one way to do that is to really spend time understanding the muscle movements that you have to make. 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 E I'm going to do just the G for a minute because I'm not always getting to that D string. I don't think I am anyway. Measure's fine. Yeah, I think there's a couple more that I'm bad at, but we'll find out. This one. So 1 and I think because we don't often in the song strum the second string up, could be wrong, but I don't feel like we do that a ton. So maybe that's why I'm bad at this. 1 let's check that tune in a sec. I think that G or the D are wonky. Maybe the G was a little bit hard to tell. All right. Navigation that has to happen. We're going to stick to just the A7 for a sec. And 2 E and 1 and 2 E and. that's 44. Let's just make sure I'm not skipping any other measures I'm bad at. No, I think that's fine. It's really, like I said, from the G/B, a lot to do with that rhythm change. So what we'll do, let's do 2 measures at a time. And we're just going to go up, let's go to 48. So we're going to do these first 2 measures, G/B, A7, D7/4 to G, and then just loop them. And 3, and 4, and it's a D string on that one. Sometimes on that G, I don't hit the D string. I hit the G string, I think. I don't know. We'll have to watch the tape at some point. All right. And now the last 2 measures. And we're just going to go 48, 48, jumping around to those 2 different measures, then up by 4. The idea of giving your brain just a little bit of a break, coming back to something that they've already done. Maybe you approach it differently. Maybe you think of it differently. And 2, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and so I get that transition down. 2, and small little mistakes, just getting back and forth into the loop. And 1, and 2, and 1, and 2, and 3. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, reason I can't get back into that rhythm. 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 E and 1 and 2 E and 1 and here we go. All right, 52. We're gonna take this as far as I can get. So it might just be this kind of boring practice, very repetitive. But sometimes those are the best. 2 and 3 and 4 and Next two measures. And 2 and 1 and 2 and... Again, this is what's good about it, right? This rhythm's different enough that it throws me off, and I'm just trying to get my brain to be able to jump back and forth between these two measures. 1 and 2E and 1 and 2E and 3 and 4E and... So got to take away the rushing though. 1 and 2E and 3 and 4E and 1 and 2E and 1 and 2E I think we could do a little bit more of this one. That was a little sloppy. Got distracted. Back to the other measures. We're just going back and forth. 4 BPM faster, so we're at 56. Possibly 56. 2 and 1 and 2 and... Cool. So already going quicker, right? All right. Next two. 2 and 1 and 2 and... Connor, we have not talked. Wait, it's Connor, right? No, wait. I might be mixing people up. Sorry if I am. I remember your baptism of frequency because I took a screenshot and we talked about songs and we talked about drums last. Sorry if I forget the name. My bad. Remind me though. But going good. You know, chilling tonight, doing some acoustic. Trying to finish a song versus like jumping back and forth on a ton of things. I need to work on the drum part for Head Over Heels yet. For a student, but I'm trying to do like, hey, if my guitar rig is set up, do the guitar rig the next day. If I do drums next, then do drums. So that's what's good with me. And right now, just trying to get Blackbird up and running full speed. See if I get there tonight. What's new with you? going good. Let's get up to 60. Yeah, I'm gonna kind of try to like not go to 95 until or try not to do the whole thing until I get this to 95. We'll see if I can hold out. I get impatient at times. One and two and one and two and. All right. Will. I apologize. I love it. I might have to recall our messages, which is why like when somebody recommends an album, I take a screenshot because I'm like I'm gonna forget it. Baptism of Frequency though is Will. I'm gonna lock that in. So I had parts right. I think you guys were all in the same stream. That might be why. So I'm chilling, looking for inspiration, piecing together my first original, and I'm stuck in habit and can't break out of the shapes. I need to hear more about this, my guy. Tell us about the song. And then I love this idea that you are aware that you're stuck into a habit. Yep, okay. No, I got it. I remember now. I'm remembering pieces. I won't remember everything. But I do remember you starting during COVID. Habits are habits are the best and the worst thing, right? Like if you're used to going a certain road, sometimes it's really nice to go down the road, but sometimes it's nice to go right instead, and you make different choices based on that. Sometimes when I'm teaching a drum student and I can tell like they're very right hand heavy, I'll be like, dude, do you ever hear doctors will say like take your toothbrush and brush with your left hand, and it'll like open up different neural pathways. And I think that's such an interesting concept, and I think it's the same thing for us with songwriting. And it's so hard though, because I remember sitting with the guy that I write a ton with, Nick, who also works in this business with me. And we'd sit around and be like, I can't remember what song it was, but. And there's only so many good chords that sound good after that F sharp. I think we're playing F sharp 5, if I remember correctly. But even that sounds so been done 1,000 times before, right? And sometimes you have to give in to that and be like, okay, all right, I know it's been done 1,000 times, so maybe I can do a different melody, or I can do a different hook, or the drums will do something different that you can submit to, hey, this is the same shape that I always go to. The other thing that I try a lot is fifths, maybe a fifth, or taking that chord shape and moving it up the neck. Throwing just a couple ideas out without knowing your situation at all. All right, so I'm going to read his chat because I like doing that. And honestly, it makes these guys, when you guys hang out with me, it makes me practice more. I hope you're not avoiding practice by falling down the YouTube rabbit hole. But like the insights and the chatting, it really makes this actually something worthwhile doing. And actually, I shouldn't say it that way. I want to practice. That's what these are for. I want to, sell memberships and sell sheet music. But really, I want to practice and get more people to want me to practice and to help you guys with stuff. Sorry, that's my big ramble. I've had coffee late. I might have took a nap around 9 o'clock for some reason. So I'm up and a little bit active. So Will, also known as Baptism of Frequency. Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's a habit because I practiced so much, but I wasn't actually paying attention to my practicing, like actually listening to what I was playing instead of focusing on my hands. My guy though, that is everybody when they start. I probably spent 15 to 20 years. Bro, I taught at a decently high level for years and not being great with some fundamentals. And you can see that's what I'm trying to fix now. So like being aware of it is step one. And there's some exercises that I feel like at some point we just need to like loop up together, or you send me some videos and say, hey, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm bad at. I'll be like, hey, do these 3 things. Here's a video that I recommend. Here's another person that does a great YouTube video on it. I always recommend Madeline Harvey for vocal stuff because she's just a genius. She just does stuff in a very unique way. All right, I'm rambling and reading. So, I mean, Listening and hands. I mean, it's so important. You have to listen to what you're playing. You have to look at your hands, and you have to learn and grow. But at the same time, you have to have some grace and be like, all right, I'm starting out at this. I'm new at this. It's not going to be exactly what you want it to be right away. I always say, like, when I'm giving a student feedback, it depends on the level of the student. Like, am I going to be mean about it? Well, I'm never really mean, but how critical am I going to be? Are they capable of actually doing it at this point in their life? And sometimes they're not, and that's okay. And then I give them the feedback that makes sense for them. He says next, and what they are doing to try to alternate picking and blah, dude. Alternate picking and fast stuff is yeah. Wait, but bro, what you said here, and I use bro and my guy and a couple other phrases a little bit too much, and I apologize. Oftentimes, I would say bro to make fun of kids because they'd all come to the studio and be like, hey, bro, and I'd start saying it as a joke, and then it became something that I started saying all the time. So, um, what you're saying though is I think what has made some guitars very unique. So Will goes on to say, or I'm going to use YouTube handles. I'm going to try to remember people's names, though, because, respect. So, Baptism Frequency says, and what they are doing are trying to alternate picking and blah, blah, blah. I simplify my learning in terms of this sounds like that. I accomplish that sound with these notes and then finding them. Now, here's where you're right and you're wrong, Will, and I think it's a good thing to do. I think guitarists like The Edge, drummers like Larry Mullen, I know they're in the same band, so it's not a great example. Musicians throughout history have not been able to figure out the right way to do something and made it their own style, and I think that makes them super creative and leans into something new that wouldn't have been created otherwise. Shit, this song is a great example. The Art of Guitar, which I linked in earlier these, I didn't link it today because I was like, shit, this is number 5. I need to keep linking this. He goes on to say that Paul McCartney played this because actually Paul McCartney in a video says, hey, I played it this way because it's kind of a lazy way or bad technique way to play it. So he's using his thumb and first finger for everything, and then his first finger is just really just a pick. And Paul McCartney calls it a lazy way to play it. So Paul McCartney, one of the greatest musicians of all time, is saying that. He did it out of necessity, and I think there's something about that. Now, I'm rambling. One thing that I did as a musician, and maybe this is the trap that you're starting to fall into and why you're making some decisions to change, I fell into the trap of, well, it's good, I don't need to learn that other stuff because I have my own style. Well, what I didn't understand about my own style was I was just ignoring some blatant things about my playing, some timing issues that I had. I would never play anything complicated. I would never do more interesting rhythms. Because I didn't understand how to do them. And so sometimes it could become a crutch of, well, I play it my way. And I think that's an attitude that a lot of people have. So I think you have to be open to change and understanding that you should always be a student of the instrument. And I'm sometimes not very good at that, of going like, man, what else do I have to learn? What else is there? Because there's a shit ton, and you got to pick your battles. So you got to ask yourself, like, where are your flaws? It's actually, dude, part and parcel to what I'm doing with this song tonight. Where am I bad? All right. What am I bad at? How do I start fixing those things that I'm bad at? And dude, make a chart or make a list. Like, hey, I'm going to do one rudiment thing, I'm going to do one scale thing, and I'm going to do one song to kind of give you new insight and change your brain. That kind of stuff. Like, slowly go through that. Or maybe for you, it's one new songwriting thing. So you got to pick your battles. But you're asking the right questions. Maybe that's a good way to say it. Because quite often I think I've taught many of people and jammed with some people that are like, no, this is good. I'm good at this, and I'm good, and this is where it's going to be. And I'm like, my guy, you're not good at this, and you don't know how to be good at this. So you're not even open. I had a singer once. Well, it was a great story, though. Like, I pulled the singer in that I was in a band with for multiple years, and I said, hey, come over to the house. I want to learn how to finally write. Dude, not different than your story. I was probably 20, probably 30 something. And I go, come over to the house. I want to learn how to write. Come over to my studio. I want to become a singer-songwriter because it's always been in my brain. That's something I want to do. By the way, shameless plug, check out my band Lamech. Our single Higher Ground came out 6 or so months ago. Because I thought he was a decent songwriter, so that's why I invited him over. He comes over, and I start playing my song for him, which wasn't very good at the time. I'll have to find it someday and we can play it. And he goes, I can't help you. And I go, what do you mean you can't help me? He goes, the song sucks. The song, you don't know how to sing. There's no melody. And these are things were all true. I don't think the song sucked. I think I did have a concept of what melody was and how to do it. But instead of him being able to show me, he just shut it down because he himself didn't know how to do it. I think I had a point in that story, but much like in lessons, I lost it maybe. My whole point was, dude, you're at least aware enough to say, hey, I want more. I want to understand at a deeper level. That's step one. And then you start getting books and everything like that. All right, I'm going to read Baptism Frequencies, last couple messages, and then I'm going to get back to practice, but I'm going to still look at comments. He waited 30 years to try, and I'm now doing my drama class. He waited 30 years to try and learn about guitar music and sense of playing. I have been trying to get as much info at the time, and by info I mean like theory. Hey, man, I taught somebody like 20 years ago. He was an older dude, cool dude, cool fucker. I'd go to his house. He wanted to play blues guitar, and this was when I was a bad teacher, and people just didn't understand right away that I was bad. Like I was able to be personable enough and relational. But he might have been doing what you're doing right now, where you're like, I want to learn everything, and you can't. You legitimately just can't learn everything. You can learn one thing, and then you can keep on learning on top of that. And so maybe some of what you need to do right now is figure out. And again, like maybe, dude, like this might be an interesting conversation. To even just do like a FaceTime call at some point, and we just chat about, hey, what are you learning? What are you trying to figure out? Because, dude, where you're at, and I point over here because this is where my screen is. Where you're at is where a lot of people are at. Shit, where at any point in a guitarist's journey, somebody else, a million other people are in that same spot. So A, we feel like, oh shit, I'm the only one who doesn't know this, and B, I'm the only one in this place. Thousands of people. I've literally taught the same lesson 1,000 times, which is why I had to take a break from teaching before I, injured somebody. All right, I'm going to read on. My whole point, though, of that one, I have about like 17 points, and maybe at some point I'll be able to reiterate it. Pick your battles. Small learnings, something repetitive. If you want to learn theory, start with the nuts and bolts of chord construction. And dude, we don't have. I'm giving you examples, but literally, I'll help you make a game plan. That'd be kind of fun to do as well. Because music theory is a beast. I don't understand enough. I can understand enough to get by, and I have some smart friends that I go to and go, what does this mean? What is this thing to you? It's having a game plan and then not deviating from that game plan, which is something I struggle with quite a bit. Working on it. But it's picking one thing and learning that, because a lot of music theory, obviously, and a lot of music is just based on it, right? You're just building blocks. Or even like this string is part of that piano. Is that part of the piano? In this key, I play white keys and the black key, and they look like frets and piano keys. Dude, I struggle, and I'm not a great piano player by any means. But I struggle sometimes when I was again watching Metal and Harvey do something on the piano, and I was like, well, my guitar's right here, so I'm just gonna do it on guitar. And it took me a minute to like get my brain processing. So they're just different instruments, obviously. I mean, it's pretty obvious that they're different instruments. But the approach, if you can start approaching both of them, it makes a lot of sense. So Baptism Frequency goes, hard to explain, easier to visualize on the fretboard. That's sick, though. I'll definitely check out your stuff. I appreciate your teaching style. Hey, thanks, man. And let me give my feedback on my teaching style. This is not close to where I'm at. I'm going to start over. I taught for 20 odd years, probably. I'm 41-ish, maybe 42 at this point. Not really 100% sure. And it took me like 10 years to become a good teacher. Like to really understand, like, hey, what helps a student learn and grow? I was really good at reading people and going like, oh man, this person wants to work on this thing. I can learn that at the same speed that they can learn it. I can help them learn my pitfalls. This YouTube beast, I don't have this figured out at all. What I do have figured out is I wanted to, after I sold my music studio, I wanted to play more. Well, and I also wanted to give insight, but not give the kind of what I was bitching about. I don't want to give the same insight 1,000 times on one song. Well, I'd rather record that insight, and I'd rather play throughout the day. So that was a big reason why I made some changes. And now recently I am back teaching a little bit part-time, and I enjoy that. I enjoy it much more than being full-time and being in charge of a studio. I do love to see how people tick, though, and how they learn. And I always say to people, like, it took me so long to learn how I like to learn And I was so bad at music for so long. It gives me a lot of empathy when I meet a new student that either doesn't get it or, dude, hasn't literally found out the way that they learn music well. And I think that's a fun code to crack. And every time I do crack that code, not every time, but like 1 out of 5 times, I become a better musician because I go, oh man, his brain thinks this way. And if I can understand how his brain thinks, then I can understand music from that area. The selfish thing that I got is I wanted to play more and I wanted to practice more, and that's really what I'm trying to do now. But dude, if you're up for it, I'd love to do just we could do a Skype call in. We could set up a time and we could literally just do a live chat. You could show me, and maybe you're not up for a live chat of showing me where you're at. I know everyone's not that, game or hip. But we could do a chat regardless, whether it be live or not, and you can start showing me like where you're at. And what I'm trying not to do is give myself 1,000 things to do, but what I will be very willing to do is say, these are the 3 things you need to do. And if I can make a video of it for YouTube because that helps me out as well, I'll do it. And that kind of helps everybody out. But I'd rather be more interested in your journey because you're engaged. You want to learn. And, you're on this medium of YouTube as well, trying to communicate and go, hey, I'm looking for the right content, which means other people are looking for the same thing as you are. And I think I can help you out. I can probably help myself out because playing a song like Blackbird, actually, student wanted to learn I'm just going on a tangent. A student wanted to learn finger picking. And I go, you know what? Blackbird's a classic. Everybody wants to learn it. Also, another thing is I know Blackbird is played wrong by a lot of people, including myself. I taught it wrong for many years. And then I was like, I want to learn this for myself. I was in the middle of a drum project. I'm like, I'm going to take a couple days off from that drum project. I'm going to focus on this. And then I'm going to start playing this at open mic nights, which is another goal of mine. I might have too many goals. But feedback. And that's the other thing. I'm going to quit going. It's getting, I don't think lessons, sometimes I wonder if lessons make any freaking sense, even though I've made a lot of, it's been my job for many a year. But sometimes I walk away going, why am I teaching this kid this person, this adult, this student, for half an hour and then we're walking away? They might practice the 4 things I asked them to practice. They may not. Is there a benefit for this person? They're going to incrementally get better, but it's I don't know. There's something missing the whole lesson thing, which is really when I owned my studio, something that we were working on changing. I don't think we figured it out. And I also walked away going, I don't care if I figure that out or not. At the end of the day, I'd rather have a cool relationship. I'd rather practice on my own. And if I can help you and you can, learn from me, I think that becomes a win-win. And help me, I guess. I wanted to not say that because it sounds prickish and selfish. But, like anybody else in the world, I'm running a business. I'm trying to make a living off of playing music. That's why I opened a studio a long time ago, as I wanted to be I wanted to teach all day. Well, there's a lot of administrative bullshit that you don't think about when you're running a music business, or a teaching studio, I should say. And that's the stuff that I wasn't good at. I'm not good at as a person. I don't like administrative stuff. And I spent, again, I hired some cool teachers, and I was like, you guys kind of have it better than I do. At the end of the day, you're not getting the shitty emails from parents. You're not worried about the finances. You're not doing all these things. It's I'd rather have my night off and play. So, that's where we're at. Let's jump in. Will, I did not mean to talk to you for 30 minutes about my thoughts and feelings. You might have led the witness. You might have I want to say lead the witness, but you didn't. So, but it was a good chat. Oh, dude, nobody requested this lesson, so you're good, you're good. I'm learning this because he's learning it, and it makes my life, if you teach 20 lessons a week and you have two students that challenge you, you try to teach to the two students that challenge you, because the other 18, you're like, well, I've taught Back in Black 100 times now, so I don't have to do anything. I can show up to that one. This is something I want to learn, and what I want to put my time into. And dude, like, who would want to be able to play Blackbird 100%? Like, that's awesome. And as I was playing a little bit, I was thinking too. Two regrets of mine early on in my playing that I wasn't smart enough to know that were regrets were fixing my hands, which you were kind of even talking about already. How I approach the strings with my left hand and how I approach the pick, and then timing. Those are the two. If I could go back in time and be like, hey, time machine, go to my younger self and be like, this metronome thing, it's gonna be pretty big, my guy. Like, you're gonna like it. You're gonna want to understand that. And then the other thing is, I know those chords don't sound good right now. Don't press down hard. Relax. Just relax. And the notes will start to sound eventually. But when you approach the guitar with a heavy hand, you're never going to be fast. And you're going to have cramps really quickly. So, no apologies on the student, because, yeah. Really, it's just me learning the song. So when I come into lessons, I go, well, here's how you play it. Because before I couldn't play it at all. The funny thing is, I did have one lesson with him, and now I lost my metronome. That could be a problem. Well, we might go back to Sibelius then, if that's working. Oh, I think my speaker just shut off. So yeah, I mean, the student was approaching it the way that they thought they wanted to approach it, and pretty close to the real. I sent them the same video from Art of Guitar, because I thought that guy did a great job of breaking it down, and I was like, hey, this is how you want to approach it, this is how you want to play it. The kid could play a lot of this song already, so, and he could play his idea of it, and I think, again, that goes to where it's like, this kid doesn't want to do what I'm doing right now. This is fun for me. He wanted to be like, hey, I can play part of the song. It sounds a lot like the song. And for him at his age, that's really what he wanted out of it. He might want more. I might be speaking out of turn. He played it fine. Back to the other measure, and actually talking helps me process stuff, obviously, because that's how talking works, but also gives me a little break from playing, so there are no complaints at all. And I also think I think there's more people, I just laugh because I just keep interrupting myself from playing. There's more people stuck in your position, not stuck, but in your position than anybody knows about, because I've taught a ton of them, young and old. And they're all asking the same questions of, like, how do I move to that next step? I think, that's what we should all be doing. One and a 2 and 3 and a 40 and 1 and a 2 So by no means do I think that one's as nice as the first two measures that I worked on, but we're going to call it good. 2 and 1 and 2 and... 64. And who just want to be hanging out playing guitar anyway. It's kind of how I prefer to spend my time. Or drums. Or bass, I guess. Hey, Will, if you're still listening, and we should obviously have a longer chat. One book that I really liked early on that I wasn't really smart enough to even comprehend, even though it's pretty simple, is Fretboard Roadmaps. Don't remember who wrote it, but it's very beginner theory, and it's very obviously via the name guitar based. And I don't know, it's a good read, and I've recommended it to a lot of people who are like early on into their theory journey. If that's where you're still at, I don't exactly have your markings right. So it might be an interesting one for you. Check it out. Not saying that you should get a free copy, but there's free copies online, you know. Or buy it and support the guy who wrote it. 2 and 1. Next set, and 2 and 1 and 2 E, 1, 1 and that 2 E and 3 and that 4 E and 1 and that 2 E and. For some reason I can't get back to it now. 1 and that 2 E and 3 and that 4 E and 1 and that 2 E and. tempo. 72 doesn't push me, but it's like fast enough that it feels good. Kind of feel like I should do the whole thing that at that tempo, and then maybe push it from there, like 72, 73, 74, 75, and work that all the way to 95. I mean, we're only an hour in at this point, right? We got some time. 1 into 2 E and 3 and 4 and 1 into 2 E and 3 into 4 E and 1 into 2 E I like that idea. Let's try it. Otherwise, we'll come back to this. So 72. And what I'm going to do is give myself a measure in and a measure out, which is something I wasn't doing the other night, which would make me often forget how this last measure of G, which you cannot see, was played. But so they'll give me a little bit more time to just recover. 2, 1. Then I just realized that I've not reviewed this all since yesterday. Let's sight read it. We'll see how bad it gets. If there's something really bad, I'll stop and fix just that. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Randy, you're confusing me by being on the vertical or the horizontal stream. But how's your night going? 72 is sounding good. I agree with you. I'm surprised that those last couple of measures are nice and relaxed right now. I have the Soundbrenner actually upstairs, and I like this idea. I did not like it. I have one. I've worn it a couple times. I might have been chastised into getting one, and that might be the reason I don't like it. I do kind of like this idea of having one for this kind of thing, though, especially pairing. I don't know if it will pair up with my Logic. I know it'll pair up with a phone, though. So yeah, I like that idea. Might even be like having a secondary. Anyway, technology. I'm overthinking that. But yeah, I wouldn't mind breaking that out. That might be a good thing to start using again. This song, of course, is a bugger if you actually want the downbeat to be a little bit heavier or louder. Just because of all the different metronome changes, tempo changes, not key signature. Oh, bro, yeah. No, don't let me dissuade you. The guy that chastised me into getting one, and he was the drummer in the band that I was playing with at the time. He wanted one because I was the guitarist. He's like, I just really want to be tight. I want to be in sync, and I was like, well, good, you should. Like, we as a band, we need to do that, but like, I don't know if I need to wear a metronome all the time. Actually, my bigger issue was, if you're gonna go play gigs, and then between every song, you're gonna, sit there and adjust your phone and tempo and all that, and so I think it's a good piece of technology. It might be good to break it out again and see if I actually do like it, or if I was being biased before. 2, 3, 4. So that's 72. I thought Randy and I both think that was pretty good. I think actually the last couple sounded really nice. We're gonna go by small increments because really the goal of mine right now is to play it without strain because 95 the other day, Randy, you were here, I think. I just gripping the shit out of my right hand, and that's not the way to approach the guitar, especially just because there's a lot of movement like that going on. 2, 3, 4. Those two measures get me. All right, let's fix those two that I've been bad at a couple times. It's that transition from what transition is it? Oh, it's that G to the C, G/B. So it's a D7 sus4. So I'm going to try to do just a loop of this. Yeah, this is what we're doing. It's like we're testing a water bed or something. Maybe a tire. Maybe we're testing a tire. I used to work at a tire shop a long time ago, and we wouldn't know where the puncture was. Man, I can't talk tonight. And we'd spray it with a soapy, bubbly substance, and then bubbles would come out, and then you'd know where the puncture is, and then you would patch it if you could. If it's on the sidewall, you throw the tire away. This right here is my puncture, right? I fell apart on this part twice. It means it's time to redo this. It needs some special attention. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to grab that metronome from before, which works now because my speakers just shut off, and we're just going to fix these two this measure and half a measure. Now, we do not want to fix this at 72. We want to fix this at 58. 2E and 3 and 4 and... Practice is going to become meditative for me, and is why I kind of, like 4 or 5 years ago, fell into loving practice and didn't like it when I was a little 8-year-old kid. I don't know. You can kind of like rehash your day. You can think about what's going on. You can totally just zone out and hear the notes. I mean, it's not Blackbird anymore, right? And then when you put it back into context, it becomes Blackbird again. for sure. I was playing a song in 12/8. Yeah, the metronome gets old, and I don't always know. Like, I do a headphone check before I send whatever I'm saying to YouTube. Sometimes it sounds like crap. Sometimes it sounds okay. So if it ever sounds bad, Randy, you let me know. But shaker loops, or even like Logic has nice like drum loops to play with. It's a great thing to do. But it does make it more fun. Or like I was teaching a kid the other day, and I was like, just take your cell phone, record yourself playing the rhythm part. And then from there, like, do your solo over top. Oftentimes we feel forced to play with, the actual recording, and that's not always the best. All right, one more faster on this. Okay, thank you, Randy. Metronome is just such a harsh sounding thing. I remember the first time the app on my phone, I think it's just like Metronome Pro or some shit like that. And I show it to a kid and they go, oh, what is that sound? And well, I'm like, it has to be piercing enough, right? To get through the mix of whatever you're listening to, but it's not a friendly sound. And that's not why kids hate it, but I mean, like, it's part of the reason. Let's put this back in context. Just jump back in at 74. See what happens. 2, 3, 4. That like a B plus. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's what I like. I'm making different mistakes, and I almost prefer that to making the same mistake over and over again. Then it's just like a slight error versus like I can fundamentally not play something. So that's kind of what that proves to me, which is why I'm going to keep pushing on. If it was the same mistake over and over again, I'd probably grab that Logic metronome again. 2, 3, 4. We're going to keep pushing it because I don't think that was terrible. And we'll kind of see what speed I top out at. Hopefully it's 95. 2, 3, 4. some sloppiness at 82. We're going to keep going, though. We might just see if we can run that sloppiness out, which is probably not the way to do it. Dude, loops are the answer for a ton of shit, and it's a great way to practice as well. The guitarist that I hang out with, we started doing that like halfway through our jams, and we were like, wait, why didn't we always just put up a metronome, or not a metronome, but a loop, whether it be shakers or a simple drum pattern? It just makes what you're doing so much easier. I do think there's a something you need to cultivate with a metronome as well, but it's doing both for sure. Because you spend a lot of time with a metronome, all of a sudden you just can jam the heck out of it with a loop. So, but yeah, your drummer's not alone. There's, as you hear me play quite a bit without playing in time with a metronome. It's very common for people, and I don't, I'm drummer adjacent. 2, 3, 4. There's been some good ones in there. Nothing perfect, which is fine. Like, if I was doing this and tracking it, those 3 takes, I could have comped something together and been fine with. Ooh, I guess 90. I guess we're already at 90. Clearly, I don't know how numbers work. You have to love the, for sure. Hey, dude, we're at some point there'll be a bus, and I'll be in Georgia, and we'll be jamming and recording on that bus. It might be 2 years from now, but there's gonna be a mobile studio. We'll pull up, and you and I will jam. What would you play? Guitar or bass? Or guitar or drums? All right, so 90, I completely fell apart. You guys probably heard that. You were a part of it. This is decaf coffee, so it's not bad. 90 wasn't terrible. I felt like I could have done it. I just half doing it without looking, and it was enough to throw me off. 1, 2, 3, 4. So definitely there's some shite measures in there. There's at least three that I keep on screwing up, but I'm going to be like okay with it now. I'm going to fix it later. I'm not going to worry about fixing it now. I'm going to, there's that G that I kind of like. And chances are most people won't actually notice it, but I'm going to worry about just getting it completely to speed. And then if I have to the next day or two, fix that. So let's go up by 2s. It feels completely different than the other night when I was running through it and was very rushed at 95. I know we're only at 90, or that last run was at 90. But 90 to 95 isn't big enough of a difference that I feel like I'm going to be terribly rushed. And that means we're getting better. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's not very good. like that's not playing I'd be proud of. But again, it's me at the end of the gym getting a couple more reps in and getting up to speed. So I apologize for continuing to stop, but it's a little bit I have to tell myself that. It's like, that's not great, but you need to go that fast to get to where you want to go. I was teaching somebody the other day, and I said the same exact thing to them. I'm like, you should play it really slow and be perfect and be really, not perfect, but really, really good at understanding it at a slow level. That's number one. But if you never go fast, you will never be able to play it at full speed. It's pretty obvious, right? So it's like, understand the slow, know the slow, understand like if you want to play proficiently and you want to play without strain, slow is your answer. At some point you got to push yourself and stress yourself out, and that's where we're at tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whenever I try to make a good point, I then screw it all up. But that's okay. And I say that a lot too, but here's 94. Make sure you can see that. 2, 3, 4. Smile because I'm just like holding on for dear life, and then I can feel it falling off the rails. But 95 full speed. We're gonna go 96. Go faster than full speed. 2, 3, 4. What do you think? I thought that was pretty damn good. So good that I'm gonna take this one off. Wasn't perfect, but it wasn't bad. Let's see if I can jump back in. totally a measure I'm cheating on, but you know, it'll live. Dude, I don't know. That would be an interesting one. I do think Randy, and I mentioned this in our live stream a while ago. Here's Randy's comment. Sorry, I know everyone can't actually see it. I'm going to resolve that at some point. Randy says, man, that's a tough to play at that fast, and you're doing great. Thank you, Randy. Did Paul actually record the whole song in perfect tempo? I've never tested with a record. Wow. And two different things with that, right? Like, I'm sure they had an ebb and flow to it. But I thought it'd be fun to like take the actual file, put it in Logic, actually, which I already did. And I think it's Waveform Pro allows you to bounce down where you can have just his vocals and just the drum track or whatever the tapping is in that song. And so it is something that I'd like to do down the road is like put that in Logic, line it all up, and then track over top of it and do my own version of it, right? Or not my own version, but my cover of it. And I think that'd be a good test too, especially because like the other day I started doing the vocals, so I was just sitting there going, because I kind of made a rule in my mind, like I'm not going to practice this unless I'm doing it live. I don't know why that's a rule, but it's a rule that I made. I didn't want to cheat. I wanted everything of me learning the song other than that lesson that I had where I was breaking this down for a student to be like me working on the song. That's what these lives are about. How long does it take me? Right now we're on day 5. And it's pretty close now. Now I haven't spent any time, I think, on the chorus, but I think that'll come quickly because it's using a lot of the same ideas, which again is very song-based learning. You learn a song, you learn a lot of technique. So how'd Paul play it? You learn Paul's technique, and you got these bruises on your fingers or calluses now. So yeah, I don't know. And the other thing is like they used tape back then, and there's quite a few Beatles songs where they cut. You could tell like "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds" is a very famous one because I mean they did more than cut, right? Because they went from like a 6/8 part to a 4/4 part or something. And so it's not like Paul played this one time in a row perfect, or maybe he did. We don't know. We could ask the guy, but he'll never respond. Oh, is it? So do you think they mic'd his? Obviously, this is a dumb question. Do you think they mic'd his foot? Randy says the tapping is actually Paul's foot. They actually mic'd his foot. Pretty wild. Dude, they were doing a lot of drugs, and they were coming up with cool ideas of how to record stuff is what it amounts to, and mad respect for that. Sounds like a good life to me. And a lot of times, there's a Tom Petty story on, I think it was Southern Accents, where they wanted a metronome. They wanted to play to a metronome, but they didn't want to have rigidness to it. So instead, they had their drummer, Steve Ferrone, I think is his name. They had him kind of tap out the beat with him. So think of it this way, like they probably gave him the tempo, maybe they gave him an acoustic track to play to and he clicked it out. But his human feel is going to be different than a stoic or stiff metronome giving you that same pulse. It's the same thing that Randy and I were talking about like, his drummer can't play with the metronome, but he can play with loops. And maybe some of it is because he has a little ebb and flow to him. That ebb and flow is what makes music great. We've kind of bleached the shit out of music at this point. It doesn't sound like it used to. So that's my whole other story. And I had a nice little break to do 96. Let's do, we'll do a couple more 96 in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4. Randy, I was on a roll. The funny thing is, I looked down thinking I knew what was next, but man, that was playing smooth. I thought I knew what was next, but I didn't. Now, here's the other thing, and I keep on, no one watches all of these, so I'm going to repeat myself a lot. Those little tiny breaks, even me chatting and reading the chat a little bit, is enough to give my hand a rest and my brain, probably not even hand, as much as my brain a rest. And then you come into it fresh. And if you can find a way at home to get those kinds of practices in, that's the best thing. So 2-a-days is the best, where you would spend like an hour in the morning and an hour at night practicing, and you would get so good so quickly if you practice the right way. And then the other one is even in your hour-long practice session or 45-minute practice session, if you do this breakup of like I guess the way that I did the measures early on in this one, right, where we were very like specific, and then we went to the whole section and specific and whole section, that back and forth. Think of it that back and forth. You're kind of like raising this up, raising that up, raising this up, raising that up. 2, 3, 4. Just gonna jump in. 4. And now I'm completely falling apart. All right, let's do 97. And again, 95 is full speed. I'm pushing myself. Dude, the old days were the best. Now they would be like, hey, give me a minute. Let me program that on my computer. I think we can bring the old days back. I think the old days needed to go away. No, actually they didn't. I think people got lazy. And instead of spending, there's so many great stories about the Beatles in Hamburg, Tom Petty with, I think Steve Ione. I think that's his name. Bad that I don't remember. Where they talked about so if it was Steve Ione, something like that, on Tom Petty's first 2 albums, the producer didn't know that they could cut in, or some story to that effect. It's on some Tom Petty documentary. But basically, he made them play the song over and over again until he thought the drummer nailed it in a way that fit Tom Petty's vocals really well. Well, that means they spent 5 hours on one song. But that 5 hours on one song made them really, really good. Nowadays, you would do 4 takes on something, and you'd comp it in, and you would quantize. And that's just... Is it cheating? I think it probably is cheating. Have I cheated before? Yeah, I've cheated. We've all cheated. We cheat because it's a little easy, right? And so, there has to be this hybrid. I think I don't love Dave Grohl, just not my favorite musician. That's fine. We don't all have to like the same people. But I have mad respect for what he's doing with was it Sound Studios and doing more analog stuff, and, respect for him kind of doing those things. Randy says even pro musicians don't even play live anymore. Everything is filled with stems. They're just warm bodies on the stage make it look alive. They're basically meat puppets, right? Musical meat puppets, which would be a great name for a band, maybe. But yeah. And I think it goes to an easy way out. I think that would probably be the reason why everyone would be like, well, it's just easier. Hey, we can be more consistent if it's always a pre-recorded track. We can always make sure it's this. I think it was Nikki Sixx, right, that called everyone out in Motley Crue that they haven't played live in 15 years of some BS. 2, 3, 4. So what I'm feeling, that's 97, which is 2 over. I think if I get to, let's just try 99. I think going 99 to 95, it's going to be man, I can play this. I played 97 right there, more relaxed than I played 95 last night. And that's where you're making some changes in your playing. And it's 100% consistency in practice. You need to allow the time to sit here and what does your hand have to do? How does that feel? All of those things over and over again. Okay, 99 is going to be a shit show. 2, 3, 4. mistake. I play this A7 wrong a lot. Randy, I hope that's a good face. Is it odd though? You said this before, and I believe you because I don't think Randy's a liar. But you can say there's certain tempos, but something becomes a part of your hands after a while. And maybe I'll fall apart if I go back to 95. But yeah, there's good things. I actually fixed that one measure of A7. There's one piece of slop yet. It's that G to. Oh, it's this guy, right? No. Where is it? Oh, it's this one. It's that G to that C/G/B. But that, in my mind, that's your next rehearsal. Well, I don't know. Yeah, you're right, though. You're right. Now, the question is, so Randy says, it allows me to not overthink with that tempo. Randy already knows me a little bit too well. I overthink about everything. I hope to prove you wrong, Randy. Not to be a dick, but I hope I can take, this goes again to singing, but I hope I can take that speed and non-overthinking and bring it to 95. Which, like my early practice, right, was bringing 70 to 95. Well, we kind of did that. There's some release in my hand. I'm not like over clenching or anything like that. So it'd be interesting, right? Can I bring 99 to 95? Let's try it. The funny thing is this should be easier. And it will be, though. Like if I spent, now that I know that I could do 95, right? Because the other day was a shit show. It's now like tomorrow sitting on 95 and doing it for, instead of an hour and we're at an hour and 40 minutes. Doing an hour and 40 minutes on this, I do an hour and 40 minutes at 95 and just really, probably not that long because I'd get sick of that and you guys probably would too. But maybe a couple different metronome tricks or, seeing that one measure of G to the C and the G/B, working that through at a small metronome jumps, like starting at 40 and just really hitting that home, make sure I'm playing it right. And then hitting this at 95, 96, 97, 95, 96, 97. Okay. All right, we're going to do a couple in a row and then call it a night because this was a long one, guys. It was fun, though. 2, 3, 4. That wasn't bad. I would give that like a grade. Still not bad. 2, 3, 4. Dude, you saw me fall apart all the last 5 times I've done this, so I don't disagree with you at all. In any like 16th note, especially because I feel like this pattern is always going da 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 da, like it's inverting. Like look at this right here, right? 1 and then 2 E end. That back and forth rhythm, when you have to own that rhythm at a slow tempo, is just hard to do. I use this word a lot, cultivating. I do feel like if you spend a lot of time with metronome, which is really like, even the past 6 months, I feel like I've been starting these lives, I notice a completely different playing style via metronome than I was 6 months ago when I started rolling these out. all because I spent a lot of time just being really, really bad with metronome and just going over and over again. All right, we're gonna legit do two more and then call it. Randy, what are you working on tonight? You're just doing your loop stuff or doing a little practicing? 2, 3, 4. One thing that I read wrong. One, two, three, four. We're calling that a night because it's not getting any better. And I say that's fine a lot. I gotta break my habits. It's okay. It should not be perfect every single time. 95 sounded pretty good. We got up to 99. I was pretty happy with that as well. Thank you guys for watching. Randy, let me know in the comments below what you've been working on. And we'll be doing more of these. And you guys have a good rest of your night. And I will talk to you later. Oh, dude, I'm sorry. I just got his message. Took a break from mixing a demo for a friend of mine. It takes balls to share rehearsing with the world. Dude, thanks, man. Thanks. It takes balls and, maybe, yeah. Hey, thanks, man. Thank you. That means a lot. Randy says, I hope you know that I'm inspiring musicians every day, so keep it up. Here's my motivation factor. If I can do it, you guys can do it too. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to play. You just have to like it. And I think the cool thing is, too, there's a cool community of musicians, and I've met already like a handful of you guys in the last 6 months of doing this. And that inspires me a ton, too. I think as musicians, we can get a little disheartened about, everyone's trying to be the best, and they only care about their egos and fuck everyone else. And I think the reality is, it seems to be a lot of drummers. I'm just calling drummers out, are very, very hell yeah, you can do this. You got this, bro. Just keep going on. And I've noticed it from every instrument, but I notice it a lot from drummers, and it's cool. And I hope we can learn that together and cultivate that and grow that, and just kind of become a cool place for musicians to learn and grow and hang and share cool stories. Because I think that's what's missing in the world right now too, is all these great stories about Randy with Aerosmith and the Beatles stuff, and me with some Tom Petty knowledge. It's let's impart some of this wisdom. So and probably help us impart some of that wisdom too. All right, you guys have